turn to the fifth commandment. What is the fifth commandment?
You shall not murder.
What does this mean?
We should fear and love God, so that we do not hurt or harm our neighbor in his life, but help and support him in every physical need.
Luther, in the Commandments, begins each one the same way. We should fear and love God so that we do not do certain things, and so that we also do certain things. And when it comes to the fifth commandment, thou shalt not murder, seems pretty obvious. I mean, you can't really run a society where people are just allowed to run around willy-nilly killing anybody they want at any turn. No way to run a country or a community, or nobody's safe. And you know, when it comes to the fifth commandment, as we read it, we probably think to ourselves, I did pretty well on that. I mean, maybe I gossip once in a while, and maybe covet things once in a while, but when it comes to murder, that's not me. Because I can tell you're not one of those, because we don't usually let them just walk around and do whatever they want to do. We usually put them away in a safe place. We probably feel pretty good about that. But maybe we shouldn't. We turn to the words of Jesus, as you probably already know. You're thinking this probably ahead of me. In his great Sermon on the Mount, Jesus makes it just a little bit more difficult. Jesus is bad for preaching the law. A lot of times we think, well, the Old Testament is law and the New Testament is gospel. But if you really pay attention to Jesus, he lays out the law pretty hard. Why does he do that? Because he's going to be paying for that law. He wants you to understand it. He wants you to see it. As our early hymn just said, if you want to see the terrible price of sin, look to the cross. And Jesus in Matthew chapter 5, in that great Sermon on the Mount, brings us to this statement. You've heard it said, you shall not murder. And he says, but I tell you, if you are angry with your brother, you're guilty. It brings murder, the idea of murder, to a much more personal place. We realize that murder isn't just something that is conceived in passion, always. It begins in the heart. It begins with anger and hatred. Going unchecked, God sees it as murder. It was always God's idea to look at the heart. It's not something new that Jesus just made up. He always was searching the hearts of men. And that was clear. And it is the heart of the issue. Man's rebellion against God. And it is the heart of man, that anger in him, that God had to change. How in the world do you change that you cannot see or touch? That I can't touch in you? The only thing that could be done is somehow to change the heart of man. To make him from somebody who is a murderer, somebody who's angry with others, somebody who thinks badly of others, and change him into a lover of others. But how? How do you redeem that kind of anger and hatred? So Jesus paid the price for the redemption. He exchanged what he had of perfection, which was exactly what God was. Scripture says, although he was in the very form of God, he did not consider equality with God something to be grasped, but he made himself nothing. Taking on the very nature of a servant, he became obedient to death, even the death of the cross. He took on himself that which was foreign to him, so that he could give to us that which was foreign to us. His righteousness, his peace. So he exchanged his perfect life for our wretched life. And in his name, he creates a new nature in us through the waters of baptism. One that loves God and that does love others. And it's growing. The old nature is dying. It's drowned in water. That's what Scripture means when it says you must be born of the water and the Spirit. He is at work in you through word and sacrament, dealing with your heart of anger and hatred. And in the end, all that we will have left will be the new person, the new man. Once again, God will have restored his image, and we will be in the image of God once again. And it is entirely his work, starting at the cross, working through his word, and working through his sacraments in you. Scripture says we do not yet know how we will appear, but we know that when he comes, we will be like him. He has done this for you. Praise be to Jesus Christ. Amen.